Good evening, Packers fans. Aaron Nagler here with your post-game gut reactions chat after the Packers season comes crashing down in Philadelphia. During the wild card round, the Eagles too much for the Packers to overcome, really, from the first play of the game, not even from scrimmage, the opening kickoff, which we all saw the video. We all know Keyshawn Nixon got that ball back. But for whatever reason, the NFL disagreed and gave the Eagles prime field position. Soon it was 7-0, and the Eagles never looked back. Certainly a disappointing night for the green and gold, obviously, mostly on the offensive side of the ball. Jordan Love having let's put it charitably, his worst game of the season. And that is considering everything that transpired over the first half of the year. Certainly not the performance you wanted from your franchise quarterback. Now, obviously, there are some mitigating circumstances there. Losing a number of guys along the offensive line along the way, starting with Elton Jenkins, having Glover come in there and then replacing him with Telfort. But down in and down out, pound for pound, the passing game was not up to snuff, and a lot of that was due to Jordan Love being off, having a few questionable decisions. It's interesting, though. Obviously, the stat line will read 4 interceptions. Most of those, I don't kill him for. I know people will look at the Zach Bond one late in the half, but I think mostly that's just happenstance. Bond making a great play. Tucker Kraft slipping out of his break. He just hits that vacated area and makes the pick, and they get paid too. It's a really good defense. I don't kill him for that final interception, the one he tosses up to Bo Melton, where, by the way, Bo Melton was tackled, but game's over by then anyway. It doesn't really matter. The one that you can kill him for is the one to Wicks up the right sideline, where Wicks has a double move, has a step on Darius Slay Jr., and Love just falls short with the throw. If he can just put it out in front of Wicks even just a little bit, that's probably a huge gain. So that's one play and one throw on the interceptions where I will definitely fault Jordan Love. But for most part, he needed to be better, and the passing game needed to be better. Of course, they couldn't really get much going because of the fact they couldn't run the ball the way they normally do. Josh Jacobs didn't have a lot of space to operate there up front. Philly sitting back in a too high shell for much of the game, never really able to get them out of that. But, man, shout out Josh Jacobs for that insane run that set up his touchdown run late in the game. A 31-yarder where he seemingly dragged half of the Eagle defense along with him. Sheer will alone getting them onto the goal line and then his punching it in. It's nice to see that kind of fight and heart from a member of the green and gold, especially on offense, especially after that game. Injuries obviously will be a huge kind of concern coming out of this one. You hate to see the way the Packers just dropped like flies, especially at the wide receiver spot, whether it was Romeo Doubs re-injuring what very clearly looked like another concussion, Jaden Reed going down. At some point, you're just running out of bodies. Obviously, you already came into the game without Christian Watson. Very hard to overcome. That said, the Packers had a chance, and that was mostly due to the play of their defense. Now, I don't want to get ahead of things because Lord knows we've been here before. We saw Joe Barry and company absolutely clamp down on the San Francisco 49ers years ago, and we thought, hey, look at that. A defense to build on and to, keep growing and getting better with. And that's a possibility this year into next season. No question about it. The Packers played a hell of a game on defense. I know they relented somewhat there down the stretch in the end, but man, it's hard for me to find fault with Hafley's crew after keeping them in the game for most of the contest. Certainly, areas of concern, you're going to want augmentation in a lot of different areas on both sides of the ball. Just frustrating to see this season come to an end the way it did with the 3 straight losses, the way this team could never get out of its own way early in games. Keyshawn Nixon setting the tone there, albeit, yes, he certainly seemed to have the recovery. But the fact that it was very clear the Eagles wanted him returning the football. They kept making sure that ball was inbounds for him to return, and he never really did anything of consequence. That's something that the Packers have to look at yet again this offseason, because one of the big reasons for bringing him back was his ability in returns, and that just never really materialized into much of a threat this season. What's going on, everybody? I got a bunch of people with super chats lined up. Let's get to them. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, JJ starting us off. Matt LaFleur and Love as coach combo winning a Super Bowl. I have to squint to see it. Even that is generous. Just keep throwing out the youngest team, Goot. Absolves all three of accountability to some. No one's absolving accountability, but they are understanding how they're working and the idea of building a program rather than tearing everything up year after year and just completely changing your squad. I understand it's frustrating, no doubt about it, but I definitely give this team and this way of working some grace, given that last year they had to fight and claw to get to the playoffs. This year they clinched playoffs earlier. Next year, hopefully, they're back to competing and or winning the division. And I know that sounds crazy given that they always went, 1-5 in the division this season. But we've certainly seen how teams can rapidly improve with a few offseason moves. The Packers, for the first time in a long time, have a pretty decent amount of cap space, full complement of draft picks. I like where they're headed. And I know your mileage may vary, and I understand the frustrations. I really do. FMCH, what's going on, man? Love needs to stop back foot throwing. So many games where if he steps into it, the outcome is much different. Think Matt LaFleur makes him work on it? It was interesting. It's interesting you bring that up because you did hear Matt post-game talking about hard lessons this season for Jordan Love. I think that's one of them. The problem, of course, is that was something we noted everyone saw last season, and we certainly saw how productive and exciting it can be. But yes, it certainly seemed to get worse as this season went on, and something that you would think needs addressing. Brandon, how are you? Did adding Josh Jacobs change the passing attack this way, or did the passing just never quite click for whatever reason? CHTV is the best. Thank you. Oh, Brandon, that's very kind of you. I mean, it's a good question. I think the approach of going more gap, power, angle blocking, things like that, I think that may have had some effect, especially for a team that had, up until this year, been predicated on the zone scheme in a big way, and then working off of zone into play action, because the play action game really seemed to disappear for much of this year. To me, that is something that LaFleur has got to drill down into, because it was such an effective part of Jordan's game last season. It was almost an afterthought this year. Raha, what's up, man? O-line was always going to have its hands full with that defensive line. Losing Jenkins made it virtually impossible. I mean, that is a very good observation, because yes, that line is a behemoth. They are excellent. They are a problem even when you are at your best. And to lose Jenkins so early, and the domino effect that you saw throughout the game, and I don't think it helped that. I mean, I think Zach Tom probably had one of his worst performances of the season. You throw all that together, and it's not a recipe for success. No doubt about it. Portmaster, what's up? Why did Robert Saleh do this? That is an excellent question. But, he's getting defensive coordinator interviews, so I don't think he'll be back next year. So we'll be back to being right as rain on offense. Sodra, number one Eeyore, how you doing, buddy? Went into 2024 thinking that this was a likable team. Turns out it was, and I'm just glad it is over kind of year. So much to clean up. Go Pack Go in 25. There is certainly a lot to clean up. No doubt about that. Portmaster, how are you, man? I super chatted halfway through the season that the offense was close. It never quite clicked. Didn't expect it to get worse as the season went, though. That's, to me, the one kind of alarm bell. And I know the Fire LaFleur people will be out in droves tonight, and that's fine. They can have that. I don't think he's anywhere close to being on the hot seat, anywhere close to being fired. But he absolutely needs to come back next year with a much better plan on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to throwing the football and being productive in the passing game, because that is something that took a major step back this year. And I don't know if that's directly because of the fact that they lean so heavily into the run, but a effective running game should help your quarterback. And that is why losing so much of the play action stuff really kind of, I'm not going to say rankles, but is really mystifying, because all of that running and that production and that effectiveness with the run game should help your quarterback and should help open up your passing game. That never seemed to really materialize, especially down the stretch this year. Joe, thanks so much, man. Pack goes into 2025 with more concern about offense than defense. Matt LaFleur needs to look at everything, including maybe some position coaches, even at QB. Ooh, is that Tom Clements slander I hear? I mean, I think Tom Clements is safe, but yes, he will undoubtedly be looking at everything. That is something that occurs each and every offseason, and there are certainly going to need to be some hard questions asked on the offensive side, including, yes, staff. Josh, how are you, man? I think Matt is the guy for the job, creative and seems to be a good leader, but is he the guy to call the plays? Seems to struggle mightily at times. Josh, it's been a question before, and he has mentioned that he is open to the idea of handing play calling to someone else. I don't think he goes that route. I doubt it would come to that. And if he did, I suspect he'd probably take it back at some point in the middle of the season, much like McCarthy did. But like I said, I can only take the man at his word. And from what he has said in the past, that he is open to it. Mimsy. Congrats on the incoming year's rent of super chats. Well, thank you. And thank you for contributing. Evan Siegel. I don't think it's the same Evan Siegel, but how are you? Thanks so much. I honestly, and I mean honestly, not just saying that, can't recall the last time Green Bay was the more physical team, especially in the playoffs. That opening sequence was so predictable. They were terrified. I can't say they were terrified. I mean, it was a helmet-to-helmet hit. I'm not going to say that it should have been flagged because I think it's football. Things happen 1,000 miles an hour, but it's really hard for me to say, oh, they got the better of them physically on a helmet-to-helmet hit right off the bat. And look, you're telling me the defense wasn't physical tonight? They seem to do a pretty damn good job for much of the game. I get people are always kind of, oh, they're soft or whatever after a loss, but man, that is not a reaction that I had to that game. Ryan, what's up? Matt LaFleur won't lead the Packers to the Super Bowl. Like I said before, Goody and Matt LaFleur should be on the hot seat. Ryan, I vehemently disagree, but I understand your frustrations and I get where you're coming from, and you are most certainly allowed to have your opinion. Raha, what's up? Why wasn't that helmet to helmet on 25's fumble? It should have been, but they're never going to call that. It happens so fast. You see two guys kind of ducking their heads. I'd never begrudge officials for not calling that in real time, unless it's a receiver over the middle and a safety comes in and it's only those two guys. Then maybe you'll get that flag. But in the middle of a kick coverage, there's 100 bodies in the way. Like I'd never expect that flag to get thrown. Brody, what's up, man? Pack will be back. Edge, corner, wide receiver will be added. I very much agree, and probably some additions as well outside of those position groups. But I agree, those will certainly be areas where they will look to add talent. Austin, thanks, man. I feel like we are a few pieces away from a chip. Still a young team, plenty of time to grow. Also, Nixon recovered that ball. He did, Austin, and I appreciate you, man. Make sure that's happening. Yeah, there we go. Brian, thank you, man. Love you guys for keeping me mollified throughout the season. Go Pack Go, hoping for an in-person draft party in April. Rodgers won it all in year 3 for what it's worth. I mean, yes, he did, and it's exciting to compare them. But, man, Jordan is on his own path. This Packers team is on its own path. And I know we are all, and I include myself here, guilty of, oh, this happened in 2010 or this happened in 96. None of that means a whole heck of a lot for this team or the 2025 team. But yes, it is hopefully a squad and a program that is continuing to grow and develop into a championship contender and or a champion. But, I'd caution people from saying, oh, this is the schedule and this is what it has to be, because usually you're just setting yourself up for disappointment in that way. Dustin, thanks, man. What does it say about our coaching when Nags is live calling the play and player before it happens, referencing all-out blitz resulting in the touchdown? Yeah, Dustin, sometimes you just get called or you just get in the moment as a play caller and, look, they get paid too. And who knows, whatever tendency they maybe often have in that situation, they just had something for it in their mechanism as far as Jalen Hurts being able to get out of it. But that is a pretty easy call, right? Like if you see the entire front mugged up there and all of your defensive backs playing off, well, why wouldn't you as a quarterback just, okay, let me get to some kind of angled dart route out in the flat and get it to my big tight end and let him make some hay, I mean, I think that does happen from time to time, and it's certainly not a regular occurrence. But in that moment, yeah, Hurts and Philly got the better of them, no doubt. Connor, what's up, man? Agent is an excuse for love, but not the rest of the team, as you push back when it was used to explain poor play. Also, sampler platter of wide receiver, no wide receiver one. Connor, I think they need to augment the talent level at wide receiver. I do find it funny when people talk about they have to get a wide receiver one. Well, where is that going to happen? They're picking probably at like 25 in the draft. So maybe possibly they can jump up and get somebody if he falls into the late teens. But traditionally, the premier guys, they're not making it to 25 unless you're talking about taking a second round guy. And then, oh, God, we didn't take a wide receiver in the first round. And I'm not saying that's what you're intimating here, Connor, but I can already tell that that's going to be a conversation, right? And yes, you're right. Age is an excuse. It's a reality, though. I mean, there's no question that this team needed to play better, needed to play more consistently, and it certainly did not through much of this season. And that is frustrating. Simitovich, how are you, man? Thanks for a great season, Nags. What your daily chats at 5 mean to me is unmeasurable. I know I can be amongst friends and feel better. Love you all. Oh, Simitovich. It's the nicest chat ever. Thanks, man. Andrew Ware, here we go. T. Higgins. Andrew, I'll be shocked. First of all, I'll be shocked if he gets out of Cincinnati. Second of all, even if he does, I'll be shocked if the Packers put down that kind of cash in free agency for a wide receiver. Brad, what's up, man? Cheers to the Packers, Nags. We'll be back. Go, Pack, go. Right back at you, Brad. Jacob, what's up? Chiefs three-peat. If I can't be happy, nobody can be. See, no, I can't get on board with that, man, because then they would have, the only other three-peat outside of the Packers. So, yeah, no, I'm not down with that. Ed, what's up, man? Damn, D played so very well. We'll never understand why an offensive player can jam their hands into a D's face mask with no penalty. Seen that called once in a lifetime of football. Yeah, usually if you're an offensive player, as long as you're straight with your hand, you're fine, right? It's when you grab it and twist it that will get called, and I've seen that called, but it's just the rules, brother. Riley, how are you? Thanks for the coverage, Nags. Sad the season's over. Gonna miss watching ball until September. The UFL is available. I kid. I hear you, man. Go Pack, what's up? Nags, why do you think the offense struggled? 2 reasons. They couldn't get the run game going the way they want, and they couldn't get the Eagles out of their kind of shell defense. They played soft zone defense almost the entire game because the Packers couldn't get them out of it because they couldn't run the ball. But then on top of that, they, dealt with injuries, certainly lost offensive linemen, lost a bunch of wide receivers. All of that contributed. But the other main component there is Jordan Love did not play very well. And that has got to change. You can't get into these playoff games against the best defenses in the league. And look, Philadelphia is an awesome defense. They are, depending on what you're looking at metrics-wise, one of, if not the very best defense in the league. So, yeah, it's a tough road. And it's a tough task. But you need your quarterback to play better. Now, Jordan is young. He is going to hopefully improve and be better in this spot next year. But, yeah, he has to play better in that game. Don Vito, how are you, man? Please buy a beer with this super chat. I screw around in super chats with being a doorknob fan, but after reading the chats on here, Facebook, holy Christ, is it annoying. Thanks for everything, CHTV. Vito, I appreciate you, brother. I know I give you hell sometimes on our live chats, but I appreciate your steadfastness, and I very much appreciate that super chat. Thank you, brother. Danny Boy, thanks for the super chat, man. Need to learn from the mistakes and the undisciplined bullshit that happened all season. Team is still so young. Luckily, we might finally have a defense. As always, go Pack, go. See you in Lambeau next year. Back at you, man. And yeah, the defense absolutely came to play. It was nice to see how effective they were when they got everybody back on the field. I mean, we had Quay Walker and Edrin Cooper together for the first time in forever and for a full game until Walker went out there at the end. Evan Williams back in the mix. It was really nice to see them kind of firing on all cylinders for a change. And you saw the result. Now they can still get better. They still got plenty of areas for improvement, whether that is getting another pass rusher. It could be interior, it could be edge rusher, anybody up front to cause a little bit more havoc. And then obviously you want another corner. You got to be able to maybe do a little bit more coverage wise between man and zone. And that's going to be predicated on being able to hold up in man coverage. But for the most part, yeah, it's exciting. Definitely an exciting step forward for the defense in 2024. Hambino, what's up? TJ Slayton, what are you doing? Eagles let the pack linger, but they didn't make them pay for it. Lick the wounds and on to 2025. Yeah, the Slayton part, I get he's making a play in the moment. He's stuffed Barkley, and it's big play. But man, you just saw Keyshawn Nixon get a 15-yard flag because he finished a play. I mean, yes, they're out of bounds, but like everyone's falling down, and he just finishes the play and he gets a flag. So they're looking for this ridiculous ticky-tack nonsense, and you just play right into the hands. That's frustrating. You could see LaFleur and his staff giving him an earful on the sideline for good reason. Nick Heller, how are you, man? Seems like most a vet. You guys got to slow down when you're typing. A vet in the wide receiver one spot. I like our receiving room, but do wish we had an older vets to fill the veteran leader roles and bring some energy and discipline. Hello, drop balls. Thoughts? Nick, it all depends on who makes it to free agency. And I know over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see a lot of free agent kind of potential signings and lists with guys who, quote, are available. But I'm begging everyone to wait until we get to the tag portion of the offseason and we have guys either re-signed or tags placed on them so we know who will actually be available when free agency begins. But that said, I do believe, there's a good chance that if there is somebody there worth adding in free agency, they'll take a look. They'll have a conversation. No question about it. Shay Michael, what's up? Will the Packers ever overcome deficits again? Been a long time since they've won with adversity. They certainly need to be able to overcome things. That said, tonight was a bit different. I mean, when you're behind the 8 ball 7-0 inside of 5 minutes, I mean, you're fighting uphill the entire night. And we've seen this year, yes, they've had furious comebacks that fell short, but no doubt about it. They have to be more resilient and they have to be able to get themselves out of holes. And they did some of that tonight. I will say, if you look at the number of holding calls they got, which, man, I lost track of, they overcame 1st and 20s. They overcame 3rd and 20s. They overcame some real kind of tough spots, but certainly throughout the game as a totality, they weren't able to, and that is frustrating. There's no doubt. Kelvin, how are you, man? Cap hell is mostly gone now. Huge offseason to add experience and talent to complement what we already have. Next season will allow fewer excuses. Kelvin, I think that is perfectly stated. I very much agree. That's what I talk about when I say it's a program, right? From the moment they traded Aaron Rodgers, tore off the Band-Aid, so to speak, jettisoned all the veterans, and then started building through the draft. These draft classes, the last 2 years in particular, this year, well, the jury's still out, no doubt about it, but they've added a lot of young talent. But to your point now, entering an offseason where almost all of the ramifications from kicking the can down the street to try to get back to a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers are off the books. And now they're able to utilize every kind of weapon, so to speak, in the offseason arsenal to, yes, I suspect, add some more veteran talent, much like they did with Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney. I'm not going to say they're going to bring in a bunch of all-pros, but they're certainly able to augment their roster in a way they have not been able to the last couple of years. And that is the next step in the program. That's my kind of view from the outside looking in. I haven't talked to anybody about this, obviously, but that is my guess, is that is the plan. Like, we've set the core, we've set the foundation for our program. This is the group of guys that we think can, utilize throughout this next 2-3 years, and we're going to go win a championship with them. But it's going to happen because they augment the roster and they add pieces both from outside and from the draft. That's where they're headed. That is the dream. William, what's up, man? Can we bring Rodgers back for 1 year? Backup insurance policy if Love continues to struggle. Come on. Maybe you can make another doc from it. William? That's adorable. Matthew, how are you? Tough way to end the season. NFL draft in Green Bay, definitely exciting for the offseason. Also, hats off to Jeff Hafley. No question about it, Matthew. Hafley's crew came to play. And I thought he called a hell of a game considering, the Eagles are pretty fucking good. And they certainly had them on lock for much of the game. No doubt about it. Raha, what's up? Young team, healthy cap, D showing signs of life. The future is still bright. Go Pack, go. That's a healthy attitude, sir. I don't know if that's allowed on the internet. Overshadow, how are you, man? I've been on this rock 46 years. 44 of these have left me heartbroken at the end of the season. That's why it's so sweet when they get it done. Get excited. It's happening soon. Go Pack, go for life. Overshadow. What? Who are all these people with like positive outlooks? Y'all are crazy. Terry, are you concerned about love long term? I am not. And I know you'll probably find plenty of people on the internet and in the football world, especially Packers fans, because no one loves to hate on the Packers more than Packers fans, who will tell you, oh, yes, big cause for concern. He took a major step back this year. That's not what I saw. I saw a young quarterback who is still growing and developing and learning and is going to continue to get better. He's going to come back next year better than he was this year. Now, is he ever going to reach the heights of what we saw, say, the last 6 games of his first year as a starter? That's a tough bar to cross. It's a tough thing to be consistently. But I think you'll certainly see a guy who learns a lot from this season. And I, certainly saw it with Favre, certainly saw a bit of it with Rodgers earlier in their careers as starters, having ups and downs. Certainly. Rodgers in particular was much more productive that second year as a starter, but you certainly saw guys learn things, struggle with things, get better from things. Adversity strikes, and how do you respond? Well, Jordan Love's got a whole season now of, okay, I maybe can't take any of this for granted as far as what I'm trying to do downfield, throwing off my back foot with pressure in my face, things of that nature. Hopefully he drills down this season and improves in those areas, right? But no, concerned about Love long term? Absolutely not. Jerome, what's up, man? Favre and Rodgers didn't win Super Bowls in their second year starting. This is a young team with a lot of talent. I'm optimistic about their future. Jerome, again, it's a healthy attitude. Rai, what's going on, man? Today's trench fight is why Green Bay invests in the O-line. That's true. And of course, no one will remember that they did exactly that in the draft this past year because Jordan Morgan was injured, But yes, that is why they try to build their offensive line as much as possible. Because you see games like this where it's won there at the line of scrimmage, and the Eagles had control of it for most of the game. What has Love improved on this year? Min? Nada? I don't know what Min is. Michael? Well, he certainly learned to take care of the football, but maybe to his detriment. You saw early in the year where he was certainly a turnover machine while trying to push the ball down the field. Certainly improved in that regard in the second half of the season. Now, if he can find an equilibrium next year where he knows when and where to push it and still be smart with the football, then this year will have certainly been worth it. But I don't think you can look at this season and tell me he didn't get better in that regard, because he certainly did. Don Vito, I like Gary, but we need major help at defensive end. I don't know about major help, but I think they definitely need more talent there. Look, you would have said, right, when they traded Preston Smith, well, God, now a lot of people did. Well, they're sellers at the deadline, right? Well, Brendan Cox Jr. comes in there and is awfully productive after having sat on the bench inactive for 9 weeks. Now, I'm not saying they got a bunch of guys sitting around ready to do that, but they don't need, to outlay like, oh, we got to spend first-round picks, we got to sign a huge offseason acquisition, etc. But they do need to continue to augment there, no doubt about it, because of the fact that their edge rush in particular and their pass rush generally was so ineffective this year when they only rushed 4 people. You got to be able to get, especially in this scheme, you got to be able to get the quarterback off his spot while you're rushing 4. And that has been few and far between this season. So I do think they'll continue to look there. They always do. It's a super important position. It's a premium position. But yeah, I don't know if they throw waves of talent at it. Lee, what's up, man? Will you have a live presence from Green Bay during the draft? Yes, 1,000%, Lee. Cheesehead TV will be in Green Bay for the draft. I'll be there all week. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're still very, very early days when it comes to what that looks like. And we've already talked to a couple people about partnering and doing events, etc. But yes, without question, Cheesehead TV will be doing a bunch of stuff that week in Green Bay for the draft. Professor Flex, what's up, man? No words. At least there's alcohol. And that's one approach, dude. I totally get it. Absolutely understand that approach. Hinks, what's up? This game felt like it was in another dimension. I mean, from the moment they fumbled that opening kickoff, it did feel like an out of body experience. No question. Mimsy, what's up? We really did consult Salah to become the Jets. Damn. That's cold, Mimsy. Jocelyn, thank you so much. If team was ahead of schedule last year, it was on schedule this year. That said, the window is open mindset is fool's gold in the NFL. Nothing is a given. As always, appreciate you and CHTV. Go Pack Go. Jocelyn, two things can be true there, and you are absolutely right. Nothing is a given. That is 1,000,000,000% correct. But the window is open. Now, I don't think that's a fool's mindset. I think that's the truth. When you have the youngest team in the league making the playoffs 2 years in a row, that tells you there's still a lot of opportunity in front of you. Now, you have to take advantage of it. You have to get better and improve. But I don't think that's fool's gold or fool's mindset. I think that's the truth. The window is wide open. Brett, this wide receiver room is nice. Fuck. I don't like being this guy, but Love needs a wide receiver one. I think need is doing a lot of work there. I think it'd be nice if he had a wide receiver one. Let's say that. Joe, what's up, man? Nixon recovered the ball and Jerry Rice fumbled. That is a perfect allegory. The funny part is we had replay when Rice fumbled that, couldn't be utilized by the NFL. So we just had to sit here as Packers fans and know it for the rest of our lives. But today we saw Nixon recover the ball. The NFL saw it too and still said the Eagles recovered. So what the fuck is the point of replay is my question. This is why I say just fucking call the games. Bad calls are going to happen. Let them call the bad calls and let's keep going. Well, he's got to make sure we get it right. Well, the whole world saw Keyshawn Nixon recover the ball, and you still got it wrong. Bang up job, NFL. Mario, what's up? Mr. Love is still developing. It took 12 until his third or fourth year as a starter to see what he could be for the future. He was also fighting injuries along with everything around him. Patience. Mario, I know that the Love haters will say this is an excuse, but it is 100% correct that he was never right this season. That's what's so frustrating. From the moment basically not even the season began, from the moment training camp began. Don't forget, he was late to camp because of the contract. Then he gets in and they go to Brazil and he gets hurt. And then he's back and then he's hurt again. And then he gets back and it takes them some time to kind of figure things out on offense. And then he got hot. He got good for like 5 weeks. And then these last 3 weeks, it all kind of fell apart, which is concerning. Yeah, that is the trick, right? Because that is what you get measured as a franchise quarterback, is being not just good, but great, and being great consistently. Finding that consistency is the trick. And that is what Love has to do next year. Mike Witt, what's up? Honest question, do you think DCs have figured out Matt LaFleur's tendencies as a play caller? I do like Matt still, but he is trending down in my opinion. I think the end of the season trended down, no question about it. But as a play caller, game planner, etc., I don't think he's trending down. Some tendencies, certainly. That you watch a guy long enough and you know what he's up to in certain situations. Certainly, I think Packers fans probably have a beat on it sometimes because of all the games we've watched, right? But yes, I do think he'll continue to change things up. I'm fascinated to see how he kind of builds off of the things they did well this year, i.e. a lot of the running game stuff, and where he kind of rips it up and maybe not starts over, but tries to do different things in the passing game. Bucky Boyd, how are you, man? Disappointing season. However, I do think we have a bright future. I do wish last year's result traded with this year's alters the perspective a tad. No question. And that's the thing, right? If they, flame out last year and then have their big win this year, it feels like forward progress, right? Because of the fact that we had the big win last year and now we have this dud on wildcard weekend this year, it feels like they took a step back. And certainly you can look at this team and look at a lot of different areas where, it feels like they did take a step back. But as a program, again, certainly it's forward progress. It's a step forward for a team that, clinched the playoffs when they did, certainly looked to be a more cohesive unit as a roster. definitely juggled injuries, but every team does. So, yeah, next year, hopefully they take that step kind of forward again by winning another playoff game or 2 or 3 or 4. How's that? Brian, what's up? What is your and Corey's number one liquor on a sad day? I can't speak for Corey. I'm not quite sure that he heads to liquor on a sad day, but for myself, it's usually any kind of rye would be my pull. Kenny, how are you? Any free agent predictions? Just that the Packers will be active. But as far as certain players go, as I was talking about before, let's get past re-signings and franchise tags before we talk about who's going to be available. Brother Love, what's up, man? Well, here's to next year. Cheers. Salud, brother. Thanks for checking us out. Ian, how are you, man? Brother, I love you, dude, and the whole family at CHTV. Thanks for another amazing year. Go Pack, go. Right back at you, brother. Thank you so much. Henry, would you take Adams back or pass? I mean, I've obviously taken back for the talent, but the contract? Is he coming on a Green Bay discount? Because then, yes. But if he wants top dollar, probably not. I think that's up to him. Ed, how are you, man? So the league has adjusted to Love. Time for him to adjust. He has the tools. That's a big component of it, Ed. No doubt about it. The whole league spent all offseason watching him, looking at him, seeing how he plays, what he likes to do, where he struggles. And they certainly responded. And you're right. It is now his time to respond. Brad, this is unfortunate, man. Hair dryer, bathtub. See you in 25, brother. I feel you, man. I feel you. You take care of yourself, okay? Jonesy, thanks, man. Matt LaFleur and Love have question marks into next season. There has to be improvement out of both. Big regression last 4 weeks or so. I mean, yes, the last month was disappointing. Absolutely. And yes, both of them need to improve. I don't think that's being unfair. I think that is correct. Nick D, how are you, man? Bring on the RAS over-analysis and DIC jokes. Go back, go. We got to get the free agency before we get to the DIC. But yes, the DIC is omnipresent and will certainly start taking off starting on Monday. Michael, how are you, man? 2002 vibes from this team. We just seemed a bit off at the end of the season, but we still won 11 games and we're competitive in the games we lost. Can't ask for much more as a fan. Go Pack, go. Oh, Michael, my comments and mentions beg to differ when it comes to asking for more. But I hear you, man. William, thank you, man. Shout out to the defense. They played hard. Wouldn't mind them changing the premium position thing every once in a while. Feels like we get overmatched frequently against good teams. Wouldn't mind them changing the premium position thing. Well, premium positions are what win football games. I don't have any problem with that. I just want to own the line of scrimmage. The Packers couldn't do that today. They need to continue to get better in that regard. Mike Witt, thanks, man. Did Matt say how bad Reed and Myers and Jacobs are? Just pissed about how bad we played today. Bring Devontae back home, please. We need a vet. No, I didn't. I listened to his presser, but I didn't hear any injury updates. Certainly, the one that really, really gets you is the Josh Myers injury. I know I saw, who was it? Kyle Long saying that that's how he broke his leg back in the day. Absolutely hope it's not that. The guy is 4 or 5 plays away from free agency and then goes down and has to be carted off. Really feel for Josh in that regard. Absolutely hate seeing that. Dustin, what's up? Watching Washington right now. Run, slant, run, slant, deep ball, run, slant. Dustin, you know me. I love a slant. And we saw a precious few of them this year. But hey, when, Dobbs was right, they seemed to lean on him at times with the slant play. But yes, I want more slants. Always want more slants. Austin, how are you? Do you see Tay coming back? He said it's a possibility on Up and Adams, Random Packer, Mark Chmura. Yeah, I know he said it's a possibility. I think it's a unlikely possibility. Let's put it that way. Don Vito, how are you, man? Alexander Stokes Watson, possibly. Nixon, any other names that jump out as not being Packers in 2025? No, I think Alexander's probably gone. Stokes is probably gone. I think Watson's back. I mean, we're going to cut him because he's hurt. I don't think that's going to happen. Nixon, I think Nixon's back. Josh Myers, we were just talking about. What sucks is he's probably gone, and it's only because of The fact that he's injured, he probably would have been a free agent anyway, but now it's probably a foregone conclusion, and I hate it for him. Absolutely. Simatovic, what's up, man? Just going to dream about Lloyd with Jacobs next year. Yeah, let's get Marshawn Lloyd out on the field and healthy, right? I mean, obviously, not even definitely a lost season for the rookie, but definitely talent there. Hopefully he can hit the ground running, so to speak, next season. Levi, how are you, man? Do you think if they never added a 7th seed spot that Matt would be in a much hotter seat because he would have missed the playoffs 2 years in a row? It's not a crazy question. I doubt it, simply because of how the Packers operate and the fact that ripping the Band-Aid off the way they have for the youngest team in the league 2 years in a row, I think that would have been part of the conversation. And I don't see Mark Murphy pulling the trigger and saying, "Oh, Matt, you're not living up to what we thought and talked about because we haven't made the playoffs," even though without the 7th seed, they'd be a game out. So, yeah, I don't think so. I do think there'd be a lot more rumbling, even more so than there already is from the fan base. But I don't think Murphy and the people inside 1265 would be very affected by that. Because here's the thing. I'm glad I'm glad you framed it that way, because okay, so it's optics. Is that what we're talking about? Because, you made the playoffs, but if there was no 7th seed, you wouldn't have made the playoffs. My guess is, they went into this while ripping the Band-Aid off from Rodgers, turning to Jordan Love, building the youngest team in the league, knowing, okay, we're probably going to struggle here out of the gate for a little bit. Certainly not for a long stretch, but the expectation had to have been, okay, we'll see if this works, right? This is our plan, but that doesn't mean everybody's got a plan, right? Doesn't mean they're always working. Doesn't mean they're always going to be successful. But they did it knowing there's going to be some struggles along the way. But they didn't. They made the playoffs first 2 years. They won 11 games this year. So I get it, being if they didn't make the playoffs, would people inside the building start saying, "Oh, maybe this isn't right"? I doubt it. Long way of saying I doubt it. I think the Packers always look long-term. Murphy's certainly looking long-term. I don't think any real heat would be turned up. Again, the chatter on the outside of the building, probably. Patrick, what's up, man? Jordan Morgan injury ended up being vital. Lost any depth to the O-line when he went to IR. Hoping this doesn't affect his long-term development. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, Patrick, right? Especially after watching things play out today. For some of the inconsistency the kid had, he certainly looked a lot better than, the guys they threw out there tonight. And that's no shade on them, but, Telfort, Glover, they're not a first-round pick, who did look really good in camp and certainly played well in spurts throughout the regular season prior to getting injured. So, yeah, there's no doubt the domino effect was tough to overcome. And hopefully he hits, the ground running, although you never know how guys are going to respond to injuries. The Hungarian, how are you, man? Okay, Nags, what is your biggest gripe / frustration after this game? Smooth those of us seething. How am I supposed to soothe you if I'm giving you my biggest gripe or my frustration? I don't know how that's going to soothe the savage beast there, Hungarian. I mean, I don't know. It's not coming out of this game because it's kind of been building all year, but the inability to get the passing game going, especially when it comes to the play action game, after building such a dominant run game, is baffling to me. And that is a big frustration. Although I think there were kind of hints early in this game where you saw Jordan put the ball in jeopardy over the middle a couple of times. Maybe that is what Matt has tried to avoid, because maybe that's a bad tendency that Jordan has that he just can't get out of. Now, you talk about stuff where he needs to improve. Attacking the middle of the field, whether it's off play action or not, has got to improve. That has to happen. Other Luke, what's up, man? You should reserve judgment on Aaron Rodgers. The Packers might need a third string QB. He's here all night. John, thanks to the super sticker. Raha, thanks again, man. Is Dobbs at the point where he should reconsider his career? 2 concussions in a few weeks is no joke. It's completely personal, right? And he'll have the medical information and guidance from those around him, certainly the team doctors, etc. That's completely personal. I'm never going to be sitting here telling guys that they should hang it up or chastise them for continuing their career after whatever happens medically. That is an entirely personal choice that I will leave up to Romeo Dobbs. Ian, thanks again, man. Big shout out to Tyler. Congratulations, Tyler. So happy for my brother from another mother. Tyler Herrick is an absolute warrior and an absolute force. And we absolutely appreciate every single thing he does for the Cheesehead TV brand. No question. John, 4th and 26. I miss. That was a competitive game. Damn, man. That John is down bad. LD, how are you, man? Appreciate Cheesehead TV next. Thank you. Go Pack Go. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Thanks so much. JD, thanks again. Would Devontae be too expensive? Go Pack Go. JD, most likely. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but most likely. Raha, what's up, man? I don't know how people could watch that game and call this team soft. Those two teams beat the hell out of each other all game. Well, most likely because the Packers had so many guys go down due to injury. Although I will say, Philadelphia Eagles defender, see what you hit challenge, level impossible. How many times do we see Eagles defenders lower their heads? I mean, it took Elton Jenkins out of the game, caused Keyshawn Nixon to fumble. I mean, I'm not a fan of that approach, but yeah, the Packers going down repeatedly was tough to watch. But I think, you are correct in that those two teams beat the hell out of each other. Absolutely. Thomas, thanks for the super chat, man. Thank you for all that you and everyone at Cheesehead TV do for Packers fans this season. And thank you for all that you are going to do this offseason. 200 and some odd days left, right? Longest offseason in sports. Let's get to it. Appreciate you, man. Alt-Fi with Lee Lawman. Is that a show? Should I be tuning in? Brady had it correct in that they should have run more outside the tackles or ran some tosses. LaFleur, but he seems to have love LaFleur, but he seems to have blind spots. What's funny is they seem to get to that in the second half, especially that first drive coming out of the gate in the second half. I very much agree that the place to attack Philadelphia, certainly don't love the idea of trying to go between the tackles. Certainly don't love trying to attack the A-gap with your run game because of the behemoths that they have inside. But I'm sure, look, man, those guys, when they're putting together the game plan, Matt's calling those plays, they have way more information than we sitting outside, including Brady, have. So I agree that their approach probably would have been welcome, but it's hard for me to say it was a major mistake, given that they spent all week, working on what they wanted to do for very particular reasons. Gudra King, what's up, man? Packers were a good team, just not great. Can't always end with a Super Bowl. Trust the process. I agree with that, but I understand why people will listen to that and say, well, it's been XYZ number of years. They haven't won it since 2010. They've had all these close calls. So they want it all ripped up all the time. But you are correct. That is the correct and healthy outlook. Shadid, what's up? The team needs a hard reset. See you all next time. They had a hard reset when they traded Aaron Rodgers and jettisoned all those veteran players. That was the hard reset. This is building your team up to become a contender. That is the whole idea here. The hard reset already happened. The Green Yeti, what's up, man? Man, I'm going to miss weekly Packers football and the Cheesehead TV watch parties. Thanks for a fun year. Go Pack Go. Thank you, Green Yeti. Hey, I'll be here every day in the offseason for Packers Daily, so don't be a stranger. Nick Heller, thank you. Feels odd to be heading into an offseason where I'm not worried about defense and instead interested to see how they solve an offense full of questions. It is interesting, and I will just reiterate what I said at the top. They had an outstanding defensive performance tonight, no question about it. But that doesn't mean they've arrived. That doesn't mean they've solved anything. It means they've got something to build on. But as I said earlier, it looked like they'd arrived and solved some stuff when they beat up on the 49ers back in the day. Joe Barry looked like he was ready to run roughshod. And then they came out week 1 in Minnesota, and the Vikings passed all over them and blew them out of the water, essentially. Nothing is a given. Got to keep building. But yes, a very promising performance tonight. No doubt about it. Caleb Williams, I'm so honored to have you in the chat, sir. I love Watson, but given his injury history and how poorly the offense is without him, I think Goot has to get a receiver with similar talents. I don't think that's a crazy idea. And I do think, yes, they have to keep looking for game breakers on the offensive side of the ball, kind of regardless of position. But certainly, yes, you would like a wide receiver who can replicate some of what Watson does, simply because things do get stale and somewhat confined when he's not out there. It's kind of the same thing that happened when MVS went out back in the day. Don't forget that 49ers game we're talking about. He gets hurt in that game in Detroit and isn't available for that next playoff game, and the whole offense changes, much like we've seen with Watson, not like when he goes out for this team. So I agree. Now, the problem, of course, is, well, I'll just go order another Christian Watson. I mean, he's a pretty special, rare player, rare type of player. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't other players that are very talented. Certainly in this day and age, all these receivers coming out of college, there are just waves of talent at the receiver position at this point. But to get to underline your point, the idea of getting someone who can do things similar and have similar effects within the offense, certainly something I think they will be looking at. Mike, thanks again, man. I've said it before and I will say it again. If I'm Green Bay, I call Cleveland to see how much it would cost for Myles Garrett. They're rebuilding anyway in Cleveland. I don't see that happening because it would take a boatload of assets and handing a monster contract over to him. Let's come back from La La Land because that ain't going to happen. Mike, thank you, sir. Aaron, big fan of Cheesehead TV. Curious as to your thoughts on LVN's play this season. Way, way, way too inconsistent. Not nearly up to the standard that you would expect from a man who was picked 13th overall and playing at a position where he should be able to get up and after the quarterback with some regularity. We certainly didn't see that enough, not even near enough. Now, as I always say when people ask about LVN, he's third different defense in as many years. Certainly want to keep having him develop, physically, obviously, but as a player and having a lot more refinement in his technique and things of that nature. But don't get it twisted. Next year is a monster year for Lucas Van Ness to finally be in the same defense from one year to the next, hopefully taking a step up and forward, because this year was nowhere near good enough. Not even close. Jocelyn, thanks for the super chat. Another chat for a beer. Thank you. This is therapeutic after another frustrating loss. Also, Goot drafted a third rounder who made a big postseason play. Crazy to think, right? I think we can all agree that the third round draft kind of curse has been broken. Can we all agree on that one? Steph DeBorg, thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate you from across the pond. Jim Anderson, thank you, sir. In the next Matt LaFleur presser, can you get Wildy to ask, aren't you supposed to be some kind of offensive wonderkind? I don't think Wildy would quite ever go that route, but hey, if there's somebody who's going to work the word wonderkind into a question, my money would be on Jason Wildy. Go Pack 27. Thank you, sir. George, thanks for the super chat. Still love our Green Bay Packers. Dexter McNabb is my random Packer. Wow, that's a pull. Levi, thanks again. If you could sign T. Higgins, would you? Yes, because I'm a bad general manager who doesn't care about the salary cap. But I'm not the general manager of the Green Bay Packers. I mean, that's the answer. I would. I say this all the time. You guys are so lucky I'm not the GM because I would sign every big free agent. I would draft every dude I've read about in a draft magazine, or I'm sorry, now on draft websites because we're in 2025. But yeah, I'm a terrible general manager. So would I? Yes, but I would be a bad general manager. So take that as you will. Go Pack. How do I avoid worrying about Love's long-term viability? Only you can answer that, sir. Or ma'am. I don't know. Go Pack 27 doesn't tell me much. But how do you avoid worrying about it? I mean, I only worry about my children. So I don't know if you have loved ones for you to direct that worry to. But Jordan Love's going to be okay. He's going to be just fine. He's going to be better and better and better. Just let him develop. That's the best I got for you. I understand this year was frustrating. No question about it. But he's going to be all right. Packers are going to get better. They're going to win a boatload of games. Jordan Love's going to be a big reason they do it. Ian, what's up? Nagler, the psychiatrist, thanks for hanging so long for all of us. Thanks again, brother. Love the Appleton hang. It was great to see you, brother. Thank you so much for the support. Appreciate you. Mark Walker, how are you? Nags, thanks for all Cheesehead TV, and you do. Can you tell me special teams get better next year? Please hold me. Have a great playoff viewing season. Mark, I wish I could make that promise, but I don't like to lie. But here's hoping. Sharif, thank you for the super sticker. And Shaim, sorry I'm butchering your name. Thank you for the super chat. Packers fan in Philly here. D played their heart out. O was horrible. Max Crosby has Green Bay #1 on his trade list. Praying to get T. Higgins, please. I don't think T. Higgins is in the cards, but look, I didn't think Brian Gutekunst was going to do half the things he did this past summer. And it certainly appears that going into this next season, the Packers are ready to take the next step from, oh, we're the youngest team in the league and we're getting to the playoffs, and that's great. Now it's time to take the next step and become a championship contender. And if that involves signing a big name like T. Higgins or trading for Max Crosby, I'm not going to put it outside the realm of possibility for Brian to pull that trigger, because Lord knows there were so many times throughout this season that I thought, in this past offseason, I thought Brian will never do that. And he did it, whether it was getting Xavier McKinney, whether it was getting Josh Jacobs, whether it was trading for Malik Willis after the summer of discontent at backup quarterback, whether it was finally cutting Narv Puppy and admitting that they couldn't draft and develop a kicker and they had to go get one. He did a lot of stuff I did not think he would do. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, that'll never happen. I don't think much is going to change in regard to their approach as far as being judicious with free agency, building through the draft. But I do think you'll see some bigger swings at different points. John Simitovich, do you Madden with no salary cap on? You better believe it, man. Michael, thanks for being a Carry the G Club member. They're super injured too. I guess he wasn't lying. Let's go and get better. Thanks for everything, Nags. Michael, you are correct. Great callback. What somebody in the comments on YouTube had the funniest line about that. It was like Aragorn at the battle at the end of Return of the King, turning around and going, orcs are really dumb too, like to try and inspire the troops. I thought that was hilarious. Shepard, thanks for the super sticker. Appreciate you. And I can't thank you guys enough for hanging out here. We've been going an hour now. I have so many chats that I haven't gotten to from Facebook, from X. Obviously, I want to get to all the super chats because folks are, supporting the brand with their chats. So it's been an hour. I'm going to have to get going, but I will be back tomorrow and I'll have fresh eyes. I'll have watched the game again. So we can pick this up tomorrow. I really appreciate each and every one of you hanging out, talking Packers, not just tonight, but each and every day. And yes, it will be each and every day throughout the offseason. We do not stop here at Cheesehead TV. We now turn our eyes to the offseason. And hey, I'm going to be down in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. I'll be on Radio Row that whole week. So hopefully we'll get a Packer or two, whoever comes down to the Super Bowl to hang out. We'll get them on the show. We'll be doing both Packers Dailies and Carry the G Radio from Radio Row down in New Orleans. But in the meantime, like I said, I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate all the support, all the kind words so many folks had tonight. Really appreciate it. Please do me a monster favor and hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then tell your friends and tell your family. Cheesehead TV, we are devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night. Go Pack Go.